Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and Blizzard has just revealed patch 11.1.7, the legacy of Arathi and its development. We're going to be reviewing all of the features that are going to be incoming in this patch to see how appetizing it really is moving forward, and how well is it going to be setting up the story for the next major patch. Because for myself personally, I really think this next one, it's got a hit on the money. Undermine, it was fun. It was kind of cheeky, out of pocket, but I feel like we need to get back on track for the Soul Saga, back into this kind of trilogy mindset. We had a little, detour over here into Goblin Town, but I really feel like things need to start getting back on the rails. But for the main campaign, the Arathi Highlands, while attentions have been focused on Khaz-Algar, a new storm is brewing in the Arathi Highlands. Tensions are rising between the Horde and Alliance. Join Farron and Danath as they attempt to quell the rising tides of hostilities between the two factions in a new multi-quest campaign. You'll get to experience this next new two-chapter storyline with branching viewpoints for each faction as you play through it. So finally, we're getting a little bit of conflict between the Horde and Alliance. Feels like we've been kind of hand-holding friendly all the way through for some time here. I think that's definitely good to get back to as far as just the general fan base. And it's interesting to see how that's going to start to pivot into the next patch, right? We've had some old gods starting to pop up with this most goblin-esque patch, so maybe this is going to really kind of build up. But there's going to be some cool rewards for this. We're going to be able to get a Stromguard tabard if you are Alliance. You're going to be able to get a Magar tabard if you are Horde, and you'll be able to get a new shoulder transmog, which are inspired by Farron's own pauldrons, and they seem to be adding a lot of new transmogs that are focused on main lore story steeped characters, which is really cool. Go lore walking with Low Walker Cho. So this is something that I don't think I've seen yet for patch 11.1.7. Players level 10 and above can speak with Lore Walker Cho in either Stormwind, Orgrimmar, or Dornogal. You can get to Dornogal at level 10 for a renewed questing experience. You'll step back into some iconic lore moments in Azeroth with both previous quests and a few new ones. There are 3 available repeatable quest chains. So these are new leveling experiences, basically, or these like new starting zones almost. Meet the Ethereals. Travel to Netherstorm to fight Demencius. Meet up with Ilaria and Locust Walker in Legion, and head into the Shadowlands to meet the Brokers and gain access to Tazavesh. You'll also meet up with Venari. So are these just reliving past quest chains or completely new quest chains? Because I don't remember this. This seems like a very weird connection between all of this. This seems completely new. Experience Xal'atath's storyline. Learn more about the Blade of the Black Empire in Legion. See how Xal'atath gained her body in Battle for Azeroth, and go back in time to the Black Empire to experience Xal'atath's encounter with the old gods. So I do like more story oriented content, bringing everything together, getting everybody on the same track, because there's obviously so many years of story in Azeroth that kind of just like, if you just stepped into it for the first time, it's like there's no way you're really gonna be able to catch up into this. So I think this is a good idea. Now, face the past with Arthas. What relevance does Arthas have? I thought we finally dispensed of him in Shadowlands. Return to Stratholme for a condensed version of the culling. Feel the stinging cold of betrayal in the Wrath of the Lich King, and confront old memories as you step into the role of the Lich King as he faces down the heroes of Azeroth. So you get to be Arthas? Otherwise, they've already done this so many times, right? Like we got Stratholme Warcraft 3, we got Stratholme Vanilla after it was destroyed, then we did the Time Walking Stratholme, and now we're going to be doing Stratholme again. That one seems to be a little bit redundant, unless it's you get to be the Lich King, which could be kind of fun. While lore walking, you won't be able to undertake any other quests, but you'll be able to exit anytime you like and return to Lore Walker Cho. So to me, these seem kind of just like scenarios. They've picked a couple of moments throughout Azeroth's history, and they're going to try and do scenarios again. I don't remember how exactly successful scenarios were the first time in Mists of Pandaria. I do think more story focus is good for the game. Generally, I think the most digestible way of it is cinematics, though. I think if these don't give any sort of gear rewards, or aren't mandatory towards story progression, that likely their participation is going to be pretty low, especially if you have to go out of your way to find it and it's not just like thrown in front of you. I mean, obviously, I think like big lore nerds are probably going to jump into this, but even big lore nerds might be a bit thrown back by doing something they've done so many times before. It's interesting, but I am curious to see how they're going to make it appealing to as many players as possible, given that it doesn't outline any rewards for it specifically. Overcharged delves. Things are about to become even more dangerous in delves for you and Bran. We're introducing a new delve-specific affix to 6 delves to push you to new feats of heroism or to earn more shiny loot. So just scaling delves higher, obviously, because delves got way too easy. Creevel's Rest, Skittering Reach, the Spiral Weave, Nightfall Sanctum, Fungal Folly, and Side Street Sluice are all going to be super overcharged. You'll engage with new rare enemies, more traps, and unlock traits in a new trait tree specific to the overcharged delves. Selecting the right traits can turn the tide of traps by making them more beneficial rather than a detriment to your progress. Okay, so turning affixes into positive. This is it's interesting. Is like delves are a way for them to maybe even experiment with things for Mythic Plus into the future, because I know for a lot of players they don't like the affixes that negatively affect you. So this turning negatives into positives is an interesting way to go about it. But obviously they just want to scale up the relevance of delves. Maybe this is likely, people are probably the participation is likely declining because it doesn't have a ranked system like Mythic Plus to keep it going after you've gotten all the gear from it. And I think its gear item level is pretty capped, and then it just becomes pretty easy at that point. So just trying to keep delves relevant. Additional new rewards from this as well, though. Titan Disc Belt. Unlock the Titan Disc Belt at the start of the event and upgrade it through a weekly quest. New mount, an overcharged mech suit. There's going to be new gear, and there's going to be more delve currency. So they're really trying to flesh this out and give it more longevity. New UI options, combat assistant and single button assistant. So we've been talking about this. I do think that they are updating the single button assistant. They're changing it. So this is going to be a 1-button rotation that you can just play casually. You can probably use a controller. It's likely something that they want to be utilizing to expand World of Warcraft onto more platforms, as well as increase accessibility for those that need it. But I think they're going to be nerfing the 1-button assistant. I do not think it's going to be as powerful as it even currently is at the moment, at least from what I've seen. So it's likely going to be getting weaker and weaker, and it's really only meant for super casual use. Or is just a little bit of an aid. But the combat assistant, which is going to be highlighting which skills you should think about using next, is likely going to be used by a lot of players, especially if you've never played a class before. This is going to help you out with figuring out what your rotation is. The only downside with it is that you're probably going to tunnel vision your action bar a lot, which means you're going to miss main mechanics in the game, main opportunities to take advantage of. But I think it's nice as far as just like, you've got something in the game that's going to help you get better at the game. You can go to a training dummy without having to look up a guide or something. It's just like, this highlighted, now this, and you can build the muscle memory. So I do think it's likely in the long term going to be healthy for the game, especially getting new people in or just switching over to alts. So as they say, both of these new options should aid in lowering the barrier of entry for new players or players looking to explore new characters in a way that's meaningful to them. As with the new cooldown manager added in 11.1.5, it will evolve over time, which basically means if it releases and it's terrible and nobody's using it, that they're going to be receptive to feedback on how to improve it and make it more relevant. Dungeons and raids. There's going to be time walking dungeons. So Battle for Azeroth time walking. We're that far along. We're getting that old that time walking is now in Battle for Azeroth, man. I don't, this needs to slow down. Someone stop the ride. These changes aim to make it possible to experience time walking dungeons more authentically, giving players the opportunity to use more abilities and practice their class's damage rotations, healing, spells, and defensives. When players wish to use time walking dungeons to level up, we want you to learn your class in a realistic combat encounter. Well, I mean, right now it's just level 10 characters run around and one-shot everything, and no one does anything. It's just like, I think that's honestly created a huge bloat of players that have no idea what they're doing. That's the dangers of making leveling really easy and really fast, is that everybody shoots up to max level and they don't know what they're doing now. And now they've got to be incorporated with everybody else who has developed those abilities over years. And you're kind of just like, yeah, well, I leveled, right? I should know how to do something in the game. So I think this is likely, a necessary change for them to do, but it's probably going to be received pretty negatively because people really like just one-shotting it and getting it done, right? So at least for the veteran players. But for players who want to actually be learning their character at all, I don't think it's very helpful. So they're going to be increasing all the enemy health. They're going to be increasing the boss health. This is definitely not going to be the fastest way to level anymore, I don't think. Adjusted scaling difficulty. Lower geared players are now slightly more damage resistant. Incoming damage should be more noticeable against geared players. I thought that was the opposite in Time Walking. It's like undergeared low-level players are the ones that take no damage, isn't it? Like, I think that's got to be the main issue with Time Walking. Fixed it, it's just like your level 10 dude who just started for the first day is a god, and then you're level like 75 or something, and you're completely useless. Fixed an issue where item level scaling did not account for enchantment, gems, and other power sources. Okay, so maybe that's going to nerf the lower level characters if they're abusing enchants and the like. Time walking dungeons will now drop adventurer gear, was explorer, so it's going to be a little bit better gear. Completing a time walking dungeon will now reward 25 time warp badges, up from 10. So increasing the rewards for the end game rewards, but likely slowing down the process of leveling, which might just mean that people just don't do it at all. I mean, if it's slower than other means of leveling, people will just do the other means of leveling because everybody is just following the path of least resistance. User interface and accessibility. Cooldown manager. The essential cooldowns and utility cooldowns portion of the cooldown manager now display information for totems, such as Earthbind Totem, Healing Stream Totem, and player summons that are also tracked on the totem frame, such as Earth Elemental and Call Dreadstalkers. So just adding more abilities to the cooldown tracker. A known issue. Mac users may experience graphical distortions. Okay, a little bit of a worrisome there, but some big features coming in. And again, this is supposed to be just kind of like a mini patch for 11.1.7. But I think for the future of this expansion and leading into the rest of the trilogy, that this story and the narrative of the game has to start pulling things back together and start building towards that epic conclusion of the trilogy. If we do like a sidestep patch in 11.2 where it's just kind of like this side adventure we're doing again, like it felt like with the goblins, I'm actually really worried about the game's narrative in the long term. But other than that, just making more story features, making features that were already in the game more relevant, quality of life improvements, continuing to combat against add-ons moving into the future, which they have stated in the future they do want to be able to just limit all of the access that these add-ons can access and really prevent them from disrupting the flow of the game anymore, and just have the base game actually be capable of providing a really good experience. But that's it for this 11.1.7 update. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion, and I will see you in the next one.